Giving yourself that freedom to try out different things, and then looking at different art that you think like, oh, I want to try that. I want to see if it fits in my process. I want to see if it fits in with me, if I like it overall, and if I care to keep on going with it, right? Or even if I want to outgrow it, it's something that would be really helpful for you to help find your style. And in my case, I'm there right now, right? I'm kind of like working through that. I feel like I'm going to hit a breakthrough in the next couple of months. Welcome to another day. It's Thursday. My name is Rich, also known as PencilKarate, for those of you who might not know who I am. This is my Twitch channel. I'm a concept artist that is a hobbyist going to pro. Here you'll see me obviously draw, and you'll also see me every once in a while, I guess for the most part, in the beginning of each day that I start streaming, I'll take like different topics that pertain to artists and basically developing your skills, or maybe if you want to be like a professional or so on. I'll read blogs or news articles that have to do with that and kind of give my insight as far as like what's going on there. Take off my glasses because I know there's usually a lot of glare on them, so I don't know if that's annoying to you guys. Let's try it today without anything on here. So let me just make sure. Yep. Okay. My microphone is working. Everything is working perfectly. I usually spend about an hour before the stream starts just checking everything, just making sure that everything is like perfect, everything's in order, that I'm just like going and making sure the camera looks good, that the lighting looks good, that the microphone sounds good, that, you know, all my stuff is working, like this thing, right? Or even this thing, like you don't know what I'm saying or how I'm saying it, I'm just saying what I'm saying, right? So bit by bit, just trying to make the stream a little bit better, a little bit cooler every single time. Try to make it more engaging for everybody, but also something that I'm proud of, you know, and I think that says a lot. If you're looking to do something for yourself as far as like art, and you're looking to put your name on something, let it be maybe your career, your work, your relationships, God, even the way that you look or the way that you treat people, like putting that seal of yourself on there, I think that's worth kind of going for it, right? So this is me. This is currently the version that I'm at. This is the power level that I've been striving for and I kind of got to. So hopefully you guys really enjoy. And so far, this is something that I look forward to. And, you know, there's always a level of like nervousness, you know, obviously like, oh my God, am I going to do it or not? How good is it going to go? You know, like, am my back going to start hurting halfway through this? You know, am I going to fuck up like when I read? You know, it's just one of those things. I guess all of us kind of go through the nervousness, but I guess I got a really good like superpower, I suppose. I want to call it a superpower. I don't know. I have no reason not to, but just kind of like nervousness kind of leaves the moment that I just like enter a situation. So if I know that I got to sit here and talk to all you lovely people and engage with you and have you check out my drawings, kind of like the nervousness goes away. It doesn't mean that it doesn't come. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. I know that a lot of people actually get a lot of anxiety when they do streams. I actually, God, I couldn't sleep last night, so I ended up getting on Twitch, having a nice little conversation with somebody. They were pretty good artists, and they were saying, you know, they feel self-conscious whenever they're on stream. You know, they like their art, but sometimes they don't feel super satisfied and so on. And, you know, those are really hard things to, you know, keep like in the top of your mind, and then also feel like you're probably being successful at what you're doing, right? If you're just thinking like, oh my God, you know, is my art not looking good, or am I doing X or Y, or am I succeeding at doing it? It's kind of hard to really come off as yourself as you're like doing it on the spot, right? Really does. So without further ado, I think I'm gonna get into today's topic. It was something that I was kind of like, I don't know. I just, sometimes these topics come to mind, and God bless everybody who just goes out of their way to just like give droves of information, right, on like online, right, with blog posts and like, you know, just putting it out there. And I think the art community is filled with a lot of people that have a lot of really good experience and a lot of good intentions when they're setting out to explain some of these like concepts to us, right? And I thought today's topic would be really good because it's also relevant to me in some way or another. That's one of the reasons, some of the ways that I kind of pick these topics, right? It's like, what am I going through? So I look it up, and then I'm able to, you know, give my own personal feedback with like the best type of like, you know, as original, like not original, I guess, as genuine as I can, right? Like no filter, just kind of letting you guys know like this is what's going on with me. Maybe explain myself in a way through these blog posts in a way that, you know, hopefully helps you guys out, right? All of you guys are just like really working towards something, and I think that, you know, maybe reading these in the beginning every day, I know it helps me out. I'm just hoping that it just also helps unlock some things for you guys, right? So how to develop your unique art style. So just a quick little like intro. The way that I found this topic was actually, I've been really like, I don't know, now I'm getting into like the intricacies of my drawings. Like now when I sketch and I draw and I do all these things, I am going to like a next level. Not only am I trying to like hit the mark with what I'm trying to draw, but I'm also pushing the limits of like, how does this look? Is this fundamentally good art? And I know that that's like kind of subjective, but in the sense that I'm describing it is, does it obey the rules of like anatomy, right? Does it hold up if any other drawing were laced over it? You know, does it have good fundamentals? I would say, like, even if it wasn't someone's like cup of tea style wise, is it fundamentally good? And so fundamentals is not the same as developing your artistic style. I would say, like, if the fundamentals were a way like communicating, right, that you're able to say, I'm hungry, I want to do this, I want to do that, like that's fundamentally you're using vocabulary to communicate. Your style then becomes the sound of your voice, the phrases that you prefer the most, the speech pattern that makes you like. And that's something that I really liked about this piece here, is how to develop your unique artistic style. We're going to get a little bit more into it coming up now, but I think this is like, I don't know, to me, the way that I interpreted it, it was way more about how do you basically stamp your soul on like a piece of art that you do, right? Because your artistic style is much more than just how cool does this shit look. I think it's just like who you are as a person and where you're at in your journey. And I know it sounds really deep and it's like really intense, but in reality, I think it's that, like, whenever I draw, I feel like it's a really good depiction of who I am and where I'm at currently, you know. And then if I'm like good enough at like dissecting what's going on in it, then I can just like exponentially grow it. But we'll see, right? I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself on here. So how to develop your unique artistic style. Let me take a little sip of this. I got lime water today, so just in case, I don't know if you can see it. So I got a little bit of lime water. My girlfriend's been sick, starting to get sick, so I made her like a tea, and it had limes in it, and I still had a little piece of lime left, and I was like, yeah, let me spread in my water. Use it myself. Hopefully I won't get sick. We don't know what it is. We'll see how it manifests. over time. Okay, cool. So there's this cool little drawing here. Oh, okay, and also this is by Christine Nishiyama, and this was 3 years ago. I noticed that a lot of the stuff that I've been reading are from basically 3 years ago. Very short read. I think that has a lot of personality. They really went through the lengths of putting like their own art in there to make it, well, I'm assuming it's their own art, but they put it in there, right? And it just looks really like great. Okay, all illustrations in this article were created by the author. Perfect. So it seems like styles in the brain, originalities in the hair. There's a voice and then there's authenticity. So given the time and resources, I believe that anyone can learn to draw or paint or write. But making art is more than just studying anatomy, learning to mix, paint, and mastering grammar. And this goes to one of the points that I was talking earlier about. Like, talking is just using communication, right? It's, in this case, it's true. Art is more than just anatomy. Me making sure that it's sound and anatomy, it makes it understandable, right? It makes the illusion of what I'm creating, you know, a more lifelike figure to come to life. But like everything else that goes on it, right, is basically like me, the expression on it, the style, how it looks. And you can learn a lot by just kind of looking at that, right? So there's a special mental side to making art that deals with voice, style, originality, and authenticity. But the good news is that, in my opinion, you can learn how to master all those things too. So your artistic style is what makes your work feel like you. And I totally agree with this, right? Somebody can see a work of art and say like, this was made by X or Y person, right? Doesn't matter what the medium is. Like, have you ever heard the expression, that person left their mark wherever they went? That's like basically your, for lack of a better term, honestly, just your brand. So, what makes Picasso feel like Picasso and Hitchcock feel like Hitchcock? There are plenty of tutorials online and in books describing step by step how to draw the human body and paint sunsets of film and a fight scene. But there's no tutorial in finding your own voice as an artist. And this is very true. I don't know if you can see it. All these books are for me to learn that, right? And these books are also very valuable in the sense that it helps you expedite the process of learning some of these fundamentals, but it isn't supposed to dictate how is it that you're supposed to like do it or look like, right? Like copying, I guess, borrowing a style, for lack, I guess, of a better example, is not what these books are really kind of trying to teach you. They're trying to teach you like the fundamentals of like how you can just start expressing yourself, but still probably being like satisfied with results, right? Because that's what all these books end up promising at the end of the day. So, okay, so there's no, okay, the reason that no one really knows the exact steps they took to hone their skills, and even if they did, it wouldn't be much help to anyone but themselves, because your artistic style is totally specific to you. In fact, it is you, and I totally agree with that. I would say that the closest thing to that this part right here, where it says it wouldn't be much help to anyone but themselves because your artistic style is totally specific to you. I think that is very true from the standpoint is like different people start drawings in different ways, and the way they build out the blocks of what they're doing do different things. And sometimes like some people might use like a painting style to block out their shapes before they actually do a figure, while I'll use lines to get to where I want to go, right? And the results might be similar, but the path to get there, even though it might be loosely intertwined, it is very different. There are reasons why people do it, right? So sometimes borrowing someone else's style or someone else's method, let's just say that, someone else's method might help you get there to similar results, but if it doesn't really gel with you because it's just not you, then chances are that that's not your voice necessarily, right? It's like being a singer and then, you know, you have a very high, you know, tone and you sound like an opera singer, but you're being taught by someone who sings pop songs, for example, right, with a very limited range. And it's like you can hit different crazy ranges, right? And you're just kind of like borrowing a limiting style, right? Or maybe you're an opera singer and then you're someone who's teaching you is a jazz singer, right? They might hold a key that helps you unlock your own style, but just kind of trying to fit yourself into that mold can be more hurtful than not if you're not really paying attention to the creative process, right? And that's why, much like everyone's life, where not any two people live exactly the same way, we don't learn art and express it in much the same way. It's very much alive and it has its own history, right? So, all right, just want to make sure I didn't hit the volume on here. So, you see these little cute drawings here. Very well done. The little baby with a pencil. And then, I don't know what this means, but maybe it's like who you could be, right? So, just as you develop yourself and become more like you as you grow up, your artistic voice is doing the same thing. With every experience you have, yourself changes and grows. With every piece of art you make, your style changes and grows. So, although I can't lay out a step-by-step guide for you to find your artistic style, I do believe there's a general progression through an artist's life, including my own, and I'm going to lay that progress here. Again, can't hammer that in enough. I feel more like that today than I've felt like that in, I guess ever, really. Just, I guess kind of looking back now, I know. Like, every single thing that I've ever drawn, every style is clearly like a representation of like me, but not just me, just like, it's sort of like there's another me that's like the skill, the mastery level. It's his own like life, in a way. So it's really interesting to have those things kind of like cross, right? So, all right. So an artist style progression. A quick note here, I'm going to go through the general progression of artistic developments through life, but this by no means is the only or best way to go about it. If you haven't or aren't following this path, that's fine. This is just how I've gone through my path. Feel free to forge your own. So, Nurse Chansey. All right, so you can already tell a lot of us, like, I guess boomer style people out there, some of us have definitely been inspired by like popular shows like Pokemon. If you're older, maybe like some of the stuff from the 80s. If you're like younger, something from the 2000s, maybe from the early 2010s, right? Video games. I think a lot of us, I don't think I've met anyone who draws that was not previously inspired by something that was either already artistic or from life that they didn't wish to replicate on a piece of paper. Some people, it's the satisfaction of drawing the shapes. I knew a lot of people when I was growing up, a lot of kids loved drawing flowers because to them it was like not very difficult to put together. They felt satisfied and they could achieve what they were looking for, right? In my case, I remember my parents remember this shit, where I drew Pokemon from memory, right? And I don't think they were very accurate, but I did it on a sign, like cardboard sign, and my parents were impressed. They were like, "Oh my god, you remember all the Pokemons that you drew?" And they were on there. And I think that's the first time that we all, in one way or another, and especially my case, I guess I should be speaking for myself. The first drawing I ever did was inspired from Street Fighter 2 because the art style and what was happening there imprinted something on me and I wanted more of it. So I just replicated, what I saw on a piece of paper and then felt satisfied, right? Because I felt like I hit the mark, right? Well, it was just stick figures, but to me, at 6 years old, that made a lot of sense. And I think that that's, for a lot of us, drawing, that's usually like the first thing. We'll either draw like, I don't know, your family. You'll draw your dog or your cat or your house or grandma or grandpa, or, you know, just name it. There's something usually inspires it, right? So in this case, she's saying this is one of my earliest drawings once I began to be interested in drawing. So this is when she started becoming, this is either when she was a casual or actually probably hobbyist. Because when you become interested in drawing, like that you want to kind of get better, I call that the hobbyist stage. So development. Number 1, honing the interest. You draw, paint, write, and make a lot of stuff as a child. Eventually, you find the basic art form you enjoy making the most. For me, this ended up being drawing. So all these little tiny, wonderful little Pokemon, Pika Blue. This is really cute stuff. You could tell they were doing it on like in their notebook. They painted them in there. They look fantastic. They replicated, she replicated in this case, Pokemon. Which as a kid, if I would have seen that, and these are colored very well, like I would have been like, fuck yeah, I like, that's awesome. These look amazing, right? So hundreds of Pokemon drawings was the first thing, right? For me, it was like, I guess Pokemon was definitely one of them because the style was actually very simple. I was trying to draw a lot of Ninja Turtles when I was a little kid. That was like the foundation, right? Just kind of like the foundation. Just like the things that I liked were basically an excuse for me to just put it on there. And it makes sense. You don't need really any other excuse to draw or create art, right? It can be just something that just feels satisfying for you to create. But definitely, as you do it more, right, it's saying right there, right, honing the craft, the more you do it, the more you become more invested in trying to like hit certain things, right? The more involved, in my case, the more involved I got in drawings. When you see somebody else's drawing or you see art on books, you then really start seeing like the differences between what you're creating, what some other people are creating or have been creating or long past have created. So development. Number 2, honing the craft. Once the interest is planted, you dive in, aiming to improve your craft. You copy other artists, trying to learn how the artwork is made. For me, this involved copying and drawing a whole lot of Sailor Moon and Pokemon when I was young. So in this case, there's a wonderful piece on here, and I guess again, like that's the wonderful thing about like popular media. You know, it might not be the fine arts, it might not be like a mosaic, it might not be something crazy, but you just, when you love something, right? When you love something and you want more of it, I mean, that's pretty awesome that you could just go ahead and make more yourself. You know what I mean? Like you can, like I love, you know, in this case, she loves Sailor Moon so much and Pokemon so much that she drew stuff for her and that she can enjoy, right? Like she was not limited, her enjoyment was not limited to just playing the video games and consuming official art and media. You can do it yourself. Like that's pretty awesome. So there's this wonderful little piece here. I love it. I love the black and white of this. I love black and white pieces and that just are like kind of like evil and like looking like this. So this is from Aubrey Beardsley. So yeah, so now part 3 is honing your taste. So you see a piece of art that speaks to you more deeply than anything else has before. For me, this happened in college when I was first saw the illustrations of Aubrey Beardsley. Once I saw it in the library, I couldn't stop thinking about it for days. And it's wonderful that you can see something like a piece of art that just impacts you and you're like, that's awesome. Like I was a little baby, a little kid. I saw a piece of media that I loved. I became more invested and tried getting better at it. I saw art that was different. And then I'm like, how do I do that? I can do that. Like this is so cool. This is so different, right? Because you're just so involved with it. You already start understanding it's like, I create art and it takes this amount of effort. Like, how did this person create that art style, right? And I'm pointing outside of the screen it's actually this way. How do you create something like that, right? How do you create something like that? So it's kind of, I think that's like the natural progression, right? When you start honing your taste, you start consuming different things. Not everything that you consume might end up being mainstream media, right? Sometimes you try to find alternatives to the things that you love. Like if you found anime for the first time, discovered it, fucking crazy, you're like, oh my god, what is going on here? And then all of a sudden you find more anime, and then there's different styles. It kind of varies, but it kind of shares some of the same things, right? And then some other ones you start being a little bit more selective. I don't like this style that much, but I like this style this much. And then, you know, it starts intertwining with other things. Does it come along with music? Does it come along with movement? Does it come along with voices and all these different things? So it seems like this is another piece of art that she worked on. Number 4, development. Honing your voice. So in this case, for those of you that might have like joined in, honing your voice is essentially honing your style, right? If the basics of art is your like capacity for you to speak, right? Like learning language, your voice is the words that you use and the sentences and how your voice actually sounds, right? Which is basically your metaphor for your art style. So honing your voice, follow your obsessions with curiosity. For me, this evolved into mainly scientific topics. Okay, that's really interesting. So, oh my god, that's it. Oh, and I guess that's where she got like these styles, right? The scientific process. So, number 5, development. So honing your style. All right. So you notice and pay attention to which elements keep popping up in your artwork. This leads you to discover what makes a piece of art look like you. This includes color palettes, overall drawing styles, textures, voice, subject, and specific techniques. For me, something really clicked when I began making this weird chevron-ish pencil texture in my work. I began noticing it pop up again and again in my work, and eventually it became a major part of my style. It's important to keep in mind here that this is a continuing development that can and should keep evolving through your life as an artist. I didn't make that chevron pattern as much anymore because I've since developed other quirks as I've changed and my art has changed. But each one will lead you to the next if you follow them. So those are what I think are the basic developments, but now how do we move through that progression, pushing through each development? And I think that's actually a really good point where I think that's the creative part of creating art, when you not only then limit yourself to drawing either specific topics or doing certain things. And it's interesting that she calls it a quirk on here, where she picked up a specific shape, and that for you, like she said there too, could be your color palette, it could be the way that you outline your drawings, it could be the way that you even form your drawings, right? Maybe you don't use lines, you use different tools to create blocks, and then you paint them in. Where you gather your references, and then how do you choose to kind of put those on, right? Earlier that she referenced Picasso, like Picasso was traditionally trained in Spain and apparently was a pretty good realist painter, right? But then over time started to morph into something else, right? And then we know him more for like these weird shapes and figures with these different color palettes and different tones that don't really resemble realism, but then just kind of moved into like either surrealism or different types. And that's more or less, that's a bit of an exaggeration, you know, that I'm saying here, right? It's a bit of a move from realism to the style that he ended up in, but you don't end up there from one day to the next, is what I'm really trying to say. And you give yourself the space to try out different things and maybe even be inspired by other artists and seeing and trying that out, see how it fits in your overall style, which is like your voice, your the way that you express yourself artistically. right? And which is good to kind of consume other forms of art. You know, you don't want to really kind of keep it all like in one place. I was listening to a podcast called Draftsman. I forgot the name of the other gentleman, but one of them is Proco. If you haven't heard of him, he's a wonderful artist. Is the other person is a professor in a university. He teaches art and so on. And they were having a conversation one day. They were saying to know who your artistic parents are. In other words, who you're drawing inspirations from. If you're in the stage where you're trying to find your style and you like different things from different artists, right? And then what elements are you borrowing to then kind of bring them together and they make something that's like your own. And to be careful who you're borrowing from, because if one artist is imitating another artist and the reality isn't a lot of diversity, you're kind of creating like an inbred style, right? Where we can kind of see that with some of the earlier attempts at anime that the West was trying to do, where they would minimize the characters to like some of their key features. Big eyes, the hair's spiky. Big eyes, the hair's spiky. And then, you know, in Japan, it was just like, not everything was that. Even though that was an art style that was very recognizable from back, from there, Japan was also looking at different other artists and places, and they were infusing that, right? What really started anime was the inspiration of Disney out here on the West. And it's kind of funny how everything kind of went back. So to kind of sum up that point, giving yourself that freedom to try out different things and then looking at different art that you think like, oh, I want to try that. I want to see if it fits in my process. I want to see if it fits in with me, if I like it overall, and if I care to keep on going with it, right? Or even if I want to outgrow it, is something that would be really helpful for you to help find your style. And in my case, I'm there right now, right? I'm kind of like working through that. I feel like I'm going to hit a breakthrough in the next couple of months. So there she is, you know, she's been drawing, and then so the step that makes it all happen. There's one crucial step that happens throughout this progression, and without it, nothing will happen and your style will never be found. So what is the secret step to finding your artistic style? It's making art. And I don't think there's any surprise with that, right? It's kind of like just banging it out. The way that she kind of lays it out there, I agree with in part. Just because, and I want to say, you know, the caveat is that, like, I agree with that in part because I don't know if there's another way, right? If there's multiple ways to get to the top of the mountain. In her case, it was by making art and being experimental and trying all these different things. Aimlessly going to the drawing board and hoping that something comes out and it's a work of art that you love is very difficult. All right, probabilities of that happening are very low. I mean, it would be amazing. Like, you know, that's like going to a piece of paper and being like, I don't know what I'm going to draw. Like, you know, at least give yourself something. Choose a subject matter that at least inspires you the most. Even if it's just 1% and everything else doesn't excite you, just like pick something, right? Like in this case, just drawing a little like a dancing spider. Like, you want to draw out dancing spiders, go ahead, draw dancing spiders until it gets old, you know, until maybe you learn something. And then maybe you learn something, right? A lot of times I had to like really kind of bang out like drawing anime style back in the day. And if you go to the Discord and you go to like, I forget the name of that one, but if you go to the section where there's like old sketches or old drawings, you'll see, you know, I have a certain style and it's evolved over time, but it's also because I've tried adapting realism and other art styles in there, you know, and there's still like a fight happening, right? Like, I guess you could say like a lot of art styles are not necessarily like a beautiful blend of things that just kind of fall in together. It's a constant battle. What is it that's coming up. For me especially, like, where is it that this is gonna go? Like, do I want to take it more in this direction? Do I want to take it more in this direction? Like, oh, I want to try painting like this, or I want to try doing the other, right? And like what you're saying, Orc, it is skill building. Like, that is the closest, I guess, the closest analogy to this is like iron sharpens iron. And for a lot of us, even though drawing can be very therapeutic and it can be very relaxing, I think there is a portion for some of us that we want to create something really awesome, and it's not easy. It doesn't come to us easily. It takes a long time, and becoming inspired by your own art, right? Not because it's the best piece of art that you've ever seen, but it's because like you're a bloodhound and you just caught the faintest whiff of blood in the air, and you're like, we gotta go. Like, there's game somewhere, like, you know, and you start howling and barking. You're like, I'm gonna keep sniffing, because like it feels like that's that close, right? And if you're not there, you don't feel that way, that's totally fine, right? At least I'm expressing myself and I'm saying, like, I feel like I'm close to that. But you're not gonna find it if you don't choose to really just sit down and like she says, make art, creating it, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. And then, you know, don't beat yourself up if like you're not really satisfied with what's happening. You know, try to give yourself something new to learn until you kind of find your groove, right? Because when you draw, you're kind of, again, it's like a personal imprint of who you are. And if you look at it objectively, and you know, you're kind with yourself, you're like, I can see what I like, right? And I can see where I can improve on. I think it's a successful art endeavor, right? Creating a piece is, I finished this and I like it. It's not done until it's perfect, because we're never gonna hit perfection, right? I think it's just worth us kind of like finishing something and then moving on to the next thing. So let's see here. So each development is pushed to the next by making more and more art and noticing the artistic habits you begin to develop. So in this case, right, she was doing those little chevron patterns. We can see here there were a lot of figures of a dancing spider, which is really wonderful. And these are really nice, right? So she explored that. That was like her avenue of like, oh, I'm doing something different. She's doing something that if anybody else in her classroom or any one of her peers saw, they're like, oh yeah, that's oh shit, I forgot her name. That's Christine, right? Christine drew that. Like, I can recognize it anywhere, right? So these habits are the things that just begin happening in your artwork almost in an automatic, subconscious way. The topics that keep popping up, the pencil texture that you keep automatically drawing, those are the things that make up your style. But you can't just choose them, you have to find them. And so here's her working on some other things. And you find them by making lots and lots of art. Your style is the result of honed interest, all the things you've absorbed over your lifetime, and an appreciation of the art, a refined craft, and a sense of curiosity. The ability to notice and follow the leads of your work shows you. And finally, the repetition of creating art over and over. To do all that just makes more art. And I definitely agree with that. I said it here before. It's just like, sit down and do the work, right? Pick what the schedule works for you. If you want to learn more art, or you want to do anything in life, period, you want to get better at, if you're dedicating 0 minutes ever, try to create a schedule. Do 5 minutes a day if you can. If you can't do it every day, do it 5 days a week. Like, any time that you invest in the structure and then you start dedicating to it, you'll start finding that you're going to get better at whatever you want, right? And we all have reasons not to, maybe not today, or, I'm too busy and so on. That's fine. That's okay. But if it still calls out to you that you want to get better at your art, and you want to do things that, you want to get better at things that you've always wanted to get better at, or you wake up and you're like feeling disappointed that you didn't spend time on something, then it's calling out to you. It's asking you for you to make the time, you know, and that's in a lot of ways loving yourself. And I think that's a beautiful thing to do. So your mistakes will guide you. All of the failed pieces, all of the work you created where you had no idea what you were doing and were totally unhappy with the results, all of that is an essential part of the process. It is exactly what will lead you to finding your artistic voice. And I think this goes to a talk that we had a couple of days ago, if not last week, that if something scares you or something makes you upset, that means that it matters to you and you care about it. And that's actually very important. That's probably the best sign that you actually give a shit about what you're doing. So it's just a matter of it's just a matter of persevering through the rough, floundering periods where you're trying to figure out who you are and what you're about, just like getting through middle school so you can finally be an adult. And that's really like a awkward phase, right? So that probably means that art in some ways is always going to be like an awkward period, but I guess we just kind of get over ourselves, right? And we just kind of do it. So go and make interesting mistakes, make amazing mistakes, make glorious and fantastic mistakes, break rules, leave the world more interesting for your being here. Make good art by Neil Gaiman. And I don't even know what this is. This is like what, math and scribbles? And that's about it. So hope that, you know, to some of you guys that are looking to have more of an art style, I know that, you know, I'm starting to feel like things are evolving in my end. It's only like the beginning. I'm really excited about it. And I just say, like, if you're looking to become more inspired and do different things, like continue to draw, continue to push yourself enough for there to be some level of like creativity and some form of you breaking through your current levels, right? You know, let's think about Dragon Ball, right? You can't get to the next level of power and consistency if you're not training. And then once you train, you need to go into combat. You know, you need to test your skills to see if you can get that much better and if you can reach those heights. There's nothing more powerful than just believing in yourself and really just pushing that out there. There's no shame in ever trying anything. I think that our biggest regrets in life have they don't really just only come from like trying something and failing. A lot of times I feel like any regret that I might have had in life is just opportunities that I never really like took. So that being said, we're done with the preaching portion of the stream. Let's get to the art. Let's get to the drawing. This like